fall, but we are standing tall. This Mother Russia will never die. Nothing our lies, that's where we have hearts. It's just a shining bright until your love stop with that power to fight. Crimson God, you came to lead us now into the blaze of victory immortal. Crimson God, stop the evil that keeps behind. It cannot lose, but standing is on our side.
Здравствуйте, and welcome back to this video log that I'm just kind of rambling on about laws of nature in the universe and coming right off from my rambling on about the fourth dimension. But like I said, there's the two sort of ideas. That one is the fourth dimension is another direction that we can never point to because we don't know where that direction is, and we can't go to that direction, but we can certainly think about it. The other sort of idea is that the fourth dimension is time, and we can actually go through this stream of time, but we cannot alter it. And this is the kind of stuff that, like I said, really I find fascinating, because I think that the greatest mystery, the greatest challenge in the world is not, solving world hunger and all these other things, but the greatest mystery in the world is what's out there and what's up there and what goes on in here, because we surprisingly know little about what goes on inside our brains. I think it is truly the greatest mystery in the world how our brain up here works, because essentially when you think about it, it's matter being turned into cognition, and that jump, that leap from something that's just, when you take it out, it's just a lump of meat, and it's just this blob of matter. But when it's inside, when all our systems are working together, it transforms into cognition. And that is, to me, is such an incredible leap, and something that I would vastly like to discover more about and learn more about. Oh, I gotta take a breath. I've been talking way too fast and way too excitedly. But that's part of the reason why I guess I'm in psychology, is because I want to figure out how our brain works, because, like I said, it's the greatest mystery known to us, I believe. And, there's all kinds of crazy things, like, when you think about it in this universe, because reality is stranger than fiction. Like, if we were to take a microscope and look at our hands and just zoom in as far as we possibly could, we would be transparent. We would be able to see through our hands, because an atom is essentially, most of its mass and most of what contains it is the nucleus, and everything else surrounding is electrons flying about. And this nucleus only makes up for, a insignificantly small part of the atom, and all these atoms are connected, but the only really solid part of it is the nucleus, which, like I said, makes up an incredibly tiny part of the overall atom. Most of it is just the electrons, these bits of fluff flying around it. So if we were able to get close enough, we could virtually see through our hands. And there's all kinds of theories that if this is true, we should be able to push through a table, because essentially this table is not as solid as we think it is. That essentially it's 90% fluff, and only 10% of it is just this solid mass of this table. That we should be able to break through, we should be able to push our hands through, or find some way that we could repel atoms from each other, that if we could repel them all away, then we could essentially push our hands through any solid object that is conceivable to us. But I can go on about this stuff for hours, just talking about all this weird crap that I've learned, and I know it's totally unorganized because I do all this stuff off the top of my head, and generally speaking, it's just me. I come in with a general idea of what I want to talk about, and then just talk about it, and I go on, and I move in from one point to another. But if any of you guys just want to, hear some more about this stuff, you can tell me, and I'll try and create a little bit more organized sort of theories on how this universe works and so on and so forth. Or you could do something much better and go and actually sort of watch some of these stuff and learn about some of the stuff from your own. And if you want, I can definitely help you, point you in the right direction with some of these really crazy abstract ideas. But moving on, I think I've talked enough about the universe for now. But moving on, there's a lot more stuff that I want to go over, and this is the less abstract and then scientific and more political, because I also enjoy political theory. I'm not so much. I used to be a really big history guy, and especially in my high school years. But I kind of moved away, and I moved much more into political theory versus historical context. I guess I really enjoyed it because I took some history classes in college. And I guess I really enjoyed history more as a hobby than as a class. I didn't like the class so much, and it kind of drove me away a little bit and drove me toward these more theoretical and abstract ideas in political science. But there's something I've been thinking about for quite some time, and that is there's an economic spectrum we have, and on one side is a entirely communist economic system, and the other side is an entirely capitalist economic system. And when you think about it, these two ends of the extreme are not that different, because this line is symmetrical, and if we take this line and fold it in half, some similarities are gonna come across, and some similarities between these two systems that should be entirely opposite from one another are going to overlap. And a lot of people have been asking me, my opinions on communism and whether or not I'm a communist. And I would have to say no, because a true communist would probably tear my head off for what I really think works, and what I really think is this my idea of how a world should be run. Like, it's a true communist would tear my head off, but it's still it's enough for someone who calls himself a capitalist to call me a communist. So we'll get into that. You'll see my judgments as time goes on, I suppose. But basically, what I've been thinking is there are a lot of similarities can be drawn from these two, because everyone will tell you that a purely communist system doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you that a purely capitalist system doesn't work, because if you were 100% over on this side of the economic spectrum, 100% capitalist, then everything would be privatized. That, your roads we have to build by people outside the houses, and because it wouldn't be provided by the government. The police force would be privatized, the military, the fire department, education, libraries, healthcare, and there'd be no government sanctions on anything ever, because it would all be controlled by the market. And essentially the government wouldn't really have any role, that the market would essentially be the entirety governing force over whatever country this might happen to exist in. And when you think about that, that's an absolutely atrocious idea. That doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, it could be one of the worst ideas of all time. But there are few, very certain select people who actually believe this. And fortunately, they are very few in number. And then on the other side, 100% communist would be everything is controlled by the government. The government has strong sanctions and controls everything. But neither of these systems, in my opinion, work. And also, another similarity that I've drawn between capitalist and communist is that capitalism, in a sense, relies just as much on human nature as communism does. Because capitalism assumes, in theory, a capitalist theory, the money is supposed to flow two ways. That's supposed to flow up to these business owners, and it's supposed to come back down to other people, and wages and benefits and so on and so forth. But that assumes that the people, once the money flows up, that the people are going to create policies and create economic sort of instruments that would have this money come back down and be received by the lower class in wages and benefits and so on. And I'm gonna have to cut this off, unfortunately mid thought, but I'll be right back.